Learn the most advanced recruiting techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with Rick Girard.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're talking about how to pick the best search partner for you and your company. Picking a recruiter is not easy, but we are going to coach you on how to find somebody who has your company's best interest at heart. Today is all about landing your big fish. So I'm Rick Girard, and this is the Higher Power Radio Show. Our mission is to discuss and deconstruct insights from top-performing entrepreneurs and industry experts. Every week, we uncover tested tactical solutions to solve your company's most toughest hiring challenges. Hey, today is our 1-year anniversary. This is episode 51, and I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in. So far, we've served, round of applause, thank you all. So far, we've actually had over 47,000 downloads, and we're averaging about 7,000 downloads a month. And hey, we're global. We got about 10% of our listener base is United Kingdom, Sweden, Canada, Colombia, Australia, and India. So yay! So today our guest, let's get to that, is Tom, the Big Fish Chaparro. He's the Executive Vice President and General Manager of the NEWPORT Group. As EVP and GM, Tom is responsible for firm-wide management, day-to-day operations, and quality control, as well as providing leadership and training to managers and staff. Mr. Chaparro combines deep hands-on industry expertise in a variety of verticals with uncanny business insight for international marketplaces in which his businesses operate. With proven executive search experience and unmatched technical and knowledge in general of the real estate development, construction, and oil and gas industries, we give a big warm welcome, Higher Power welcome to Tom. Tom, welcome to the radio show today.
Rick, thanks for having me back, and congratulations on 1 full year of Higher Power Radio. I think it's fantastic that you stuck with it.
I know, right?
And I think about putting on.
First thing I stuck
well,
with.
yeah. Well, I asked you how long you stuck with the same woman, and that was a good answer.
Yeah.
The thing with sticking with it and having a podcast once a week for a full year is a commitment, and congratulations to you, and
thank you.
Congratulations for the success that you're enjoying.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to be back on the 1-year anniversary. I think on my inaugural show we maybe had 2 downloads, maybe 3.
we had 7.
Okay, so I wasn't sure whether or not I'd be invited back, but you know.
No, you know, it is probably more me than you. The guest was great. Me, on the other hand, I needed a lot of work.
No,
so
you were great out of the
50
gate.
Shows to get my shit together.
Hey, you were great out of the gate, and you're still great. You know, as I told my wife, I was coming on the radio today, this podcast, to talk about recruiting, and you know, I married the perfect woman for me. And she says, great, so you get to go on the radio for 30 minutes and talk about being a headhunter? I said, exactly. Yeah. She says, oh boy, that'll be fun to listen to. So anyway, here we are today.
The tough part is keeping it to 30 minutes for you and I.
Oh yeah, no, it
so
could go
talk all day.
It could go longer.
So, you know, the reason why we're also having you back is we learned from Paul, who's our engineer and the owner of the station, that, you know, the first rule of podcast is that you bring back your first guest a year afterwards. So hey, we're gonna knock it.
Even if
today.
they're a total slacker, you bring them back. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, again, it was more me than you, my friend. So things we're gonna cover in today's show. We're gonna talk about, you know, really the basics behind knowing who your company is first, understand your expectations for your team and your company goals, and then how to evaluate a firm and choose the one that best fits your organization.
Sure.
So let's start at the beginning. We're at the root, where I find that I meet with a lot of companies, and a lot of times they just don't know who they are.
Right.
I don't know if you do that so much. You're probably a little bit more established businesses, where I tend to function more.
Well, we work in a number of industry verticals. Mm-hmm. Some of our clients are very well established. Some of them are newer. You know, I mean, I wanted to bring up what a year it's been. I mean, when you and I met last year, the economy was starting to roll.
Oh, yeah.
And now we are at an unprecedented level of unemployment, the lowest it's been in our lifetimes.
2.8% in Orange County as of 2 months ago.
And in the industry verticals that we're working, the fight for talent is more dynamic and more difficult than ever before.
Yeah.
So I think a company's knowing itself and knowing who they are and the value that they present to prospective candidates is mission critical.
Oh yeah.
To their process right now.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So bringing it back to knowing who they are, I mean, I would imagine some of your companies are fairly established. You deal primarily with builders. And
I deal in two industry sectors. I deal in the real estate development, primarily production home builders, large publicly traded builders, as well as smaller, more entrepreneurial situations.
Okay.
And then I also have a strong background in the energy sector, the upstream oil and gas sector.
Yeah.
We moved into that sector in 2010 when the real estate development and construction sectors waned.
Yeah.
So now I have a foothold in both markets, and they're both equally challenging.
Yeah.
When things are good in the oil and gas sector, human capital is the number one priority. Everything revolves around that. And attracting people is difficult.
Yeah. I would imagine that's a little bit more centric about like what oil prices are, right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And as we see the price of crude oil coming back up, we're seeing our clients jump back into the sector, and we're starting to see hiring accelerate.
But you're also super clutch in real estate. I know you guys are. You have a great reputation in that space.
Well, thank you. We've worked hard to earn that, maintain that. The Newport Group as a company, that's probably our strongest industry vertical, is the production builder and construction sectors. We do a lot of work on the straight development side, big land developers, things of that nature. Most of our work is West Coast centric, although we do work across the country. We're also very strong in the specialized construction sector, particularly the pipeline and infrastructure construction sectors.
Nice.
John Fitzpatrick, the founder of the firm, that's his personal space, and he's developed a team, and they're very, very busy. That sector has never really waned.
No, and building's been booming.
It's booming. It's booming. And, finding talent and helping clients attract and hire that's what we do.
Got it.
And, and I kind of got the tagline, big fish, because my job as my client's headhunter is to not only help them locate, but to help them hook and ultimately land that big fish. And that it requires a team effort. That requires a capable angler, a capable captain, a capable deck crew. We have to have a decent boat.
All right,
we have to have all of those things.
Let's go back to those references in a minute. I want to reel us back in here. Let's start with
reel us back in. Okay.
Yeah, reel us back in a little bit. So,
okay.
There's three things that I find when you're looking at companies, or at least what I evaluate, and I think most companies should think about when they're trying to find a source for recruiting for them.
Sure.
One, they should know what their company core values are.
Sure.
What their culture is.
Right.
And at least have a plan for success or a plan for hiring.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I would totally
agree. Anything else you would add to that?
And we work with our clients on all three of those aspects. Although we're not a consulting firm per se, in that we're going to come in and help a client define their mission statement.
Yeah.
But we do get involved after the company, and most of our clients, those are already established.
Yeah.
And they're a little farther along in their cycle. But where we get involved is really helping them put together a executable hiring strategy.
Okay.
And we're not involved in mass hiring for our clients. We're not a company that you would hire to bring in 50 people. We're very specialized, and we work primarily on the managerial level and up, and very targeted, specific, fishing expeditions on behalf of our clients to help them execute and get that key talent.
This is going to be a wet episode.
With the situation that we're facing and the critical talent shortage that we're in right now, I don't know how a company can effectively compete for real talent, A-list talent in the market without developing a meaningful partnership with a search group, for instance, like the Newport Group. And we're not the solution for everybody. And I'm not here to pitch the Newport Group as your solution.
Oh, you're doing a good job of pitching it, my friend.
We're not. Well, I can't help it, But
always a salesman. I love it.
Yeah, but we're not. But it's more of what resources are really available. Rick, you and I were talking about this earlier. the internet has created this false sense of information for companies.
Sure.
And there's
they're called job boards.
Job board. Well, there's a belief, an internal belief at companies that you just post an ad or you just reach out on LinkedIn and you can attract and hire the A talent. And I don't know if organizations really understand what goes into and the timing that's required to attract and hire the real talent that they're looking for.
And so that really comes down to understanding your company needs.
Right.
Right? And then you defining your expectations. So let's talk about needs versus wants, because this is something that I find kind of fascinating. A lot of times when I meet with a company, I look at their job description they send over to me, which is usually a want list.
Right.
Or a wish list, right? What the company needs sometimes is, what I find most often is not what they want, what they've written down.
Right.
And I think that's a big differentiation that we need to kind of help somebody to look at, is what your ego should not be in the consideration for what the company really needs.
Well, it's funny you mentioned ego, because I have been very successful in the real estate development and builder sectors, which come with a lot of ego. Okay.
Nah.
And well, it's. I think that is true in any successful organization. Sure. It's interesting. I found that in the oil and gas industry, there's a lot less ego at play than, for instance, in the real estate development and the home building business. That's just a personality trait I've noticed.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
What companies need and what they want are usually several
Degrees
spectrums apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we get in and we do a critical needs analysis
Yeah.
for our clients, and we really talk about the realities of what they will be able to hire and what the market perception is of their organization at this time. That was our discussion in our very first podcast. How do we deal with companies and how do we attract people to the B list or the C list?
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was, and so
long ago.
Yeah, it's been a year.
I don't remember what happened last week.
That's been 52 podcasts. So that hasn't changed. And part of our needs analysis with clients is understanding who you are, how you're perceived in the market, who would be attractive, and really what are the prerequisites for the role, but who's really going to add value.
Well, defining expectations, I think, is a key piece.
It is a key
right?
piece.
So you need to actually be able to sit down and define out what the person needs to accomplish in a specified amount of time.
Well,
right?
There's a time frame. There's a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, 1 year, 2 year. There's that kind of approach, and that's the approach we take with clients when we start to do needs analysis.
Yeah, I do a 3 and 1 year.
Yeah. But as important is what is the reason that somebody's going to come to your organization. Companies will give us a job description, and we typically wad it up and round file it because, like you said, that's a want list. And it's a punch list of what the person's going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. We work with our clients in developing what we call a comprehensive position profile.
So you're writing the job description essentially.
But it's not just a job description. It's more of a vision.
I got you. Okay. But I mean, it's your job description that you work off of, and it's what you present to your candidates you recruit, as opposed to that. I think of everything that you see advertised as a job posting. Right. It's not really a job description, although they call it that. And it should be just a wish list posting.
Right.
More than anything else.
A well-written position profile is really a marketing piece.
Yeah. Boom. Right there.
It's a marketing piece. And a good search consultant is going to be an extension of your marketing out in the candidate universe.
Okay, so
that's what we do.
And this is what leads us to the difference between two different types of recruiters.
Right.
One you have is the order taker.
Right.
And one's the driver.
Right.
I consider you and I to both be drivers because we get in the seat and we take the wheel and we make it happen. So that would be something that you really have to think about is, do I want somebody driving this or do I want somebody who's just going to take my order?
Right. Well, there's misconception amongst hiring managers and companies that the more order takers they have associated with their,
the faster they're going to fill the role,
and the more and the more individuals that they're going to see. And
they'll definitely see more They'll definitely see more resumes.
Well,
more
the more they believe that they will see talent, real talent that they would not uncover unless they used multiple agencies on the project.
All right, so here's tip number 1 for all hiring managers. Guess what? Hire an admin, join the job boards, and those are the people you're going to get.
Exactly.
All right, Tom, we're gonna expand on this a little bit more in a quick moment. We're going to take a quick break. We're talking to Tom Chaparro, the Executive Vice President of the NEWPORT Group. Big Fish, as we like to call him here in the studio. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this mentality, and then we're going to help you guys determine the best type of search for your specific needs.
You're listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, giving you access to recruiting techniques that will help you hire key talent to build your company towards real success. Rick is a recruiting executive and entrepreneur who's been successfully recruiting in the aggressive Silicon Valley technology landscape for the past 2 decades. After a very successful stint at Apogee, he founded Stride Search in 2012. Based on a lean efficiency model, Stride has uniquely positioned itself as a leader in retained search for the most critical talent hires within a small organization. Whether you're a startup executive or recruiting professional, by listening to Higher Power with Rick Girard, you will walk away with skills to help you attract and hire great talent. Now back to Higher Power with Rick Girard.
Welcome back to the Higher Power Radio Show. I'm your host, Rick Girard. This is our anniversary episode, number 51, and our guest is second-time guest, and I want to say recruiting mogul, Big Fish, Tom Chaparro, the Executive Vice President.
I just
of the
love what I
Group.
do. You know what?
Yeah,
I just love what I do.
And your passion comes across the radio, which we love. All right, so before I cut you off, we were talking about kind of recruiting mentality. There's 2 schools of thought. You have the order taker and then you have the driver, right?
Right.
So let's kind of help our audience to kind of identify which one will work best for their environment. And I think a lot of companies are so used to the order taker.
Right. And I think I want to differentiate or expand on order taker and driver. I consider it order taker or partner.
Okay.
All right. And my philosophy is one of partnership with clients.
Sure.
And it boils down to a couple of simple things. Number 1, if you are prepared to pay a significant search fee.
I like how you went up me on a better word, by the way.
And
I'm totally kidding.
You're just another hiring manager. No. So when I'm discussing search philosophy with a new client, or we're looking at helping them tackle a particularly urgent need or a mission critical need, I remind them that they're prepared to pay a significant search fee. Sure. And our search fees are a percentage of base salary. And, as the original trainer, Phil Ross, in the executive search industry used to say, when clients would ask him why his fees were so high, he would say, well, I send my kids to good schools. My wife likes to drive a nice car, and I like to live in a nice home. And I kind of follow suit with that, in that, we work very hard for our money.
Yeah.
But if I'm an organization and I'm going to pay a significant fee for an individual, I want to get something for the effort.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is I want an objective perspective from my search partner. I want to know that the appropriate number of stones were turned over and that the market was thoroughly vetted and that I'm not just being sold an individual so that I hire them and a fee is paid. So
and that's the biggest pitfall.
That is the pitfall.
Yeah. And I think that's really systemic with contingency search.
Or order takers.
Yeah.
I call it the spray and pray method. Okay,
never heard that before.
Where you spray resumes out there and you pray somebody gets hired.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to pay, and you're going to pay a fee, whether it's a contingent.
All right, so let's define this a little bit before you. So first you have staffing agencies, which are basically your kind of lower end temps.
Right, and clerical and
that sort of
warehouse and things of that nature.
Contingency search is primarily hey, we find you candidates, you hire one, you pay us a fee.
Right.
Just straight. And I came from that world.
As did I.
Yeah, and it was very much a spray and pray mentality.
Right.
When I was coming up through the rank, through training, it was about, I had to work with anywhere between 20 to 30 companies, and when I got a candidate who was good, that candidate went out to all 30 of those companies.
Right.
I didn't care who hired them. And as a matter of fact, what I was taught by my manager was that the company that pays the highest fee, that's the one you're going to kind of push that candidate toward.
Right.
Right.
And you were creating a bidding auction between
Yeah.
companies for the same guy, which is
Exactly. Which doesn't serve your clients very
Right.
well. Then we have retained, which is client-based, and
Right.
and we're buying. And then, of course, you have in-house recruiters, right?
Right.
And those people are fully vetted and like embedded in the company.
right.
All right. So, just to clarify too, you and I both do retained search,
Right.
Or a version of retained
Right.
search. I do engaged search, and
As do I.
yeah. So
And that is a financial commitment up front with
Yeah.
the balance of the fee being paid in a success fee at the successful conclusion of the project.
yeah. But the benefit is that we both have some skin in the game.
Right.
And you're committed to giving me feedback, and I'm committed to providing my service to you. And, I feel like, for me, I really want this company to succeed, and I'm all in 100%. All my clients know that when I talk about the company, I'm talking about, as if I'm part of the company.
Well, working under those circumstances allows us to recruit in the open.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to withhold information to potential candidates about who we're working for and what the position is.
Yeah.
Because we're not afraid of other agencies getting wind of it and sending their guys in. But more importantly, it makes it an objective relationship.
It's not transactional.
It's not transactional.
Yeah.
It's, I don't care if you hire my guy, my guy, my guy, or my guy. All right. And as your consultant, we're talking about the pluses and minuses. We're talking about the whether or not somebody's really going to move forward. And I find that engaged search consultants really understand what's at stake for the individual when they are considering making a job change.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount at stake for the company, and making poor hires is a very expensive and
it can be devastating for some companies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But think about the individual.
Yeah.
Now, when the individual gives up 5, 6, 8 years of political capital and knowing in an organization and takes that leap, and it wasn't fully vetted and there wasn't a thorough understanding and people were caught up in the moment, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it doesn't work out, it can be even more devastating for the individual.
Well, yeah, for the individual. And
But the
probably
company's
their
going to
family.
recover. They're going to hire somebody else. But for an individual, it could be a career hiccup.
Yeah, it could be.
So we're looking at making sure that we're serving all parties.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, our clients are the ones who are paying us. And our job is to make sure that individuals that are put forth in a search are thoroughly vetted, ready, willing, and able. It's got to make sense. And
But
you
you know what?
can't have that in a straight up contingent relationship.
Yeah.
Because if my guy doesn't get hired, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
So guess what? My guy is going to be the best guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And in a engaged methodology, this candidate is appropriate. If the whole pool isn't appropriate, let's go back to square one and let's
Yeah.
reconduct the search.
Yeah, I don't mind taking a pool of 3 or 4 candidates and saying, "Hey, okay, none of these are fit. Let's start over."
Right.
And you should do it because
there
that's
is a
what serves. You're judged on your ability to make sure that person is the right person.
And the talent pool's finite.
Yeah.
It's not a deep pool. It's a fairly shallow pool for every search we take on. And that's another misconception that companies have. They think there's hundreds of people out there.
Or they think we press some magic button in our database.
Right.
And just spits out candidates.
No, it's built on those candidates come from years and years of relationship building.
But also, some of the searches you take on are fresh, and you don't know any players. I mean, you have to do a lot of research into it and
Absolutely.
build that up.
Absolutely.
Even when you have a great database, and I've got a database of over 200,000 candidates, but how many am I going to touch when I have a search? Probably not that many.
Well, we tend to work in markets where we've established market mastery.
Yeah.
So we're in markets that are large enough where we're able to make the number of searches in successful searches and complete them in order to hit our revenue goals as a company, but small enough where we understand the market, we understand the players, we understand who's at what company and when it makes sense for them to be approached.
Yep.
And that's a key part of working with a good, engaged consultant.
All right, so what should a company look for? So we've kind of determined what the needs would be, depending on like what type of search would be best. And I don't want to make this a thing where we're pitching retained search. No. But you and I passionately both believe that, frankly, it's the best. It's
method. A better use of capital for the company. But what should a company? What should they? For some companies,
it's really contingency might be the best way to go.
Well, it could be, and there's certain situations when contingency is the best way to go.
And when you look at large companies like Amazon, they all have everything in house. I mean, they're big enough to where they've got so many roles. I mean, they don't need anybody outside.
But Rick, you were going to ask me what's key in choosing a search partner.
Yep.
And there's two things that I would recommend to a company. First of all, it is work with somebody that you trust.
Yeah.
That you absolutely trust, that knows that you have the company's and the hiring manager's best interest at heart.
Yep.
Okay. Number two, work with somebody that you feel can take your message, your company's message and value statement, and articulate it effectively to the candidate base. Those are the two things. So you got to pick somebody that you trust, and then you need to pick somebody that you are confident can get the attention of that big fish. That they're going to be listened to, respected, responsive to.
I would add one more thing to that.
Okay.
Somebody who's passionate about your company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that passion comes through, and
absolutely
so you don't really have to sell so much when you're passionate about something.
Well, that's the individual that can take your message out to the candidate marketplace, and using what we talked about, the principles of ethical influence, can present it in a way that is believable, that is tangible, and is desirable for a company. That's how you attract talent to your organization.
There's one other thing I was kind of thinking about too is process.
Right.
So, you should have a thorough understanding when you're vetting recruiters you're going to work with what their process is.
Right.
And see if it jives with what your perception of what it should be.
Right.
And how they're going to attract the people that you need.
Yeah. Well, and you should ask them.
Yeah.
How do you go about? Do you meet people? No. Do you Skype interview? How much background checking do you really do? How well do you know your candidate universe? How long have you been in the sector, et cetera, et cetera? Those are all things.
Tell me about the last meetup you went to that was in this space.
Right.
I mean, well, I'm in tech, so that's a little bit more relevant. Yeah. So, how much networking do you do? What do you, those things are pretty important. And then actually run into the process of, okay, when you engage somebody, how do you engage them?
Right.
Walk me through a scenario where I like behavioral questions because it gives me insight as to how somebody thinks and how they process things.
Sure.
So walk me through, you call me up and I'm a candidate, walk me through how you're going to recruit me for your company.
I'm just going to throw money at you. No, our recruiting process, it's really going to depend upon whether or not it's an existing relationship we have or a new relationship. And typically when we're approaching a fresh prospect, we talk a little bit about our client's opportunity, and then we stop talking and we listen. And we start asking open-ended questions of an individual, like, Rick, all right, how long have you been there? What attracted you? We start to try to understand the psyche of that individual.
Yeah.
I
start with the career wound. That's my big thing.
I got it.
I figure, like, hey, if I'm going to...
But it takes a while to uncover their career wound.
I can get it to it, like, in the first 20 seconds.
Yeah, but see, I think that you might be better served by starting to develop more of a personal...
Ooh, we're going to agree to disagree on that
human rapport, and start to understand why somebody has done what they've done up to this point, and then from there, start talking about motivations for change. Career wound is a motivation for change, and we absolutely want to go there, But is it in the first 20 seconds? Maybe, maybe not.
First minute for me. Well, here's the thing. I mean, like,
and you're in the tech space, and I'm not working with.
No, but I'm not just purely tech. I've actually taught this to a lot of companies that have been outside tech. Is that when you call somebody to recruit them, the quicker that you can get them talking, the more they trust you.
Sure.
And the more talking you do, the less they
sure.
trust you, right? So
sure.
Just as a general rule,
I agree.
The number one thing that you like talking about and that I like talking about is ourselves.
Right.
Right. So if I can get you talking about yourself as quickly as possible, and I could loop it around to why you might be open to hearing about something potentially stronger at this point in your career.
Right.
Now I've got a situation where I feel like almost everything that you tell them at the beginning of a call that you use to establish credibility for yourself,
right, right,
they don't listen to.
It depends. When we approach a fresh prospect, we're very deliberate in this is why we're calling. This is specifically why I'm reaching out to you today. This is the opportunity that we're talking about. Is this a good time to have a discussion? And if not, when can we sit down and have a candid discussion about this and about other things that are going on? And I've been very
my only thought on that, and where I was running into a lot of hurdles with that, is when I would discuss why I was calling and what the opportunity might be. What if they don't want that? I don't know anything about what this person wants yet for me to kind of do that. But
I understand
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
But there's also the ability to take that opportunity's message to the street in a way that there's just enough chum in the water, okay, so that we might be interested in swimming back around and taking another look at it.
All right.
And that's all we're looking for, is for you to take another look. We're not, given that we're in an engaged capacity, we're not interested in you taking an interview for the sake of taking an interview. We want to create a forum for us to have an open discussion as to whether or not this particular situation makes sense right now, or if any situation makes sense now, and if not now, when might it make sense?
All right, so now I'm getting the wrap-up signal from Paul, our engineer here. So we're just about running out of time, and so just to loop it back around really quickly, how to pick the right recruiting partner. Look at your needs, and then figure out, get an idea of the process, their cultural and business understanding, and the passion that person has for your company.
Absolutely.
And use them.
Exactly.
I mean, we'll make it really simple for you. Tom,
that's
thanks.
A good start.
Yeah, right. Tom, thanks so much for your time investment today, and welcome back to the Higher Power Radio Show.
Thanks for having me back on.
Great having you
Congratulations on a year. It's been great.
Yeah,
I'm honored to be back.
Now, hey, I'm sure there's people out there that want to reach you. How do they get you?
Best way to reach me is either via the telephone at 760-944-0285 or via the email, Tom, T-O-M, at NEWPORT one word, NEWPORTsearch.com. Look us up on the web at www.newportsearch.com. And
or on the weekends, you can find Tom actually out in the ocean following the bluefin tuna. Right?
Absolutely. On the 43 bank coming up.
There we go. So I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in to this week's episode of Higher Power. A quick thanks to our team, our engineer, Paul Roberts. Yay. Andrea Ballin, Shanti Ryle, and Kim Iverson, our producers. To listen to this podcast and any of our former podcasts, you could check us out at Higher, that's H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio.com, or Higher Power Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube, and Spotify. Follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook at Higher Power Radio Show, or you can follow me on Twitter at Rick_Gerard. So we have another great show lined up for you guys next week. Our guest will be Nicole Arvizu, the Chief HR and Compliance Officer at Marical. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
You've been listening to the best.
Are we off? All righty.
He's putting on poor music.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power with Rick Gerard on OC Talk Radio.